Right now on Tech Radio, surge pricing or Scurge pricing?
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. This is episode 1034, looking back on the biggest stories of the week, including TicketMaster, Musk versus Brazil, and some brand new tech to share with you as well. Plus our guest, Siobhan Curtin from eBay Ireland, talks about the role of resilience in building your tech career.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. So listen, I take it you're going to be going to the Oasis concert. You've got 10 tickets or something lined up. How did you do that?
Well, I have to say, at the risk of sounding like a total snob, I think none of the acts I follow will ever require the level of security and logistics that Oasis fans had to endure last weekend in order to get their tickets. Like, let's look at the system they have and eventually, you know, where the technology angle comes into it, because actually it is controlled by algorithms. So let's have a look. So for this whole idea is there with to beat the touts, to make sure people don't pay over the odds for tickets, right? So let's frame the conversation with that in mind, right?
I disagree with you already.
Okay.
It's all about protecting us from the touts.
Yeah, this is the official version, okay?
Okay, so in that case, yeah, okay, go on.
Here's
continue.
what you had to do. And, you know, the Swifties had to do it, Coldplay fans had to do it. You have to register to get a code for the pre-sale, right? So the code for the pre-sale gets emailed to you, right? You decide whether you actually want to buy a ticket or not. If you do, and you know you go into the system, you're not guaranteed a ticket. You go into a pre-sale ballot, right? So you may or may not get a ticket. It's not guaranteed. You could log in, you could be second in the queue, you could be 100,000 in the queue, and you're relying on other people to drop out and get frustrated. Okay. So then eventually, if you have your code, you get through to the pre-sale, grand, finish your transaction. Whatever tickets are left, go on general sale, right? So here are the tiers. You got to register, you get your code, you go to the pre-sale, you go to general sale. 4 steps, all designed to make the system tout-proof. However, we also have another thing, another algorithm-controlled feature to the pricing, which you would like to explain to the audience.
What's that?
Oh, come on. We were talking about surge pricing last time.
Oh, dynamic pricing, yeah. Everything you've mentioned is because tickets are going on sale again this weekend. So that's the system that they're going to do. That's not the system that they had in place this time around. The dynamic pricing is, I mean, we all know what it is now because, you know, kind of taxi apps have been using it, hotel apps have been using it. And actually, do you know what? The whole thing about, especially with hotels and airlines, believe it or not, the system that we use these days for booking airlines, hotels, and concert tickets, it all goes back to the very start of Ticketmaster and the companies that came before it. And I'll tell you about that in a few moments. But I was going to say with the dynamic pricing side of things, I just thought the entire weekend was, I mean, it was a joke. All right. And what annoys me is that I know from many, many years of working within this industry or on the edges of the industry, I should say, Ticketmaster is only interested in one thing. All right. So the touts side of it, it's like, the reason I say that is because Ticketmaster is interested in one thing, and it's money. Nothing else. Ticketmaster doesn't care about the artists. It doesn't care about the fans. It doesn't care about anybody. It only cares about money and nothing else. Well, they have been blaming everybody else over last weekend. They were saying, they were telling fans, oh, well, if you can't get through, if you're knocked off the list or whatever, you have to have one browser tab open and you have to clear your cookies and you can't use a VPN. Now, the vast majority of people that we know that will be booking tickets are not They barely know how to clear cookies, all right, on a browser. They certainly probably don't know about VPN and whatever that is, like, you know. And most likely they're not going to have more than one browser tab open. They might be trying it on their phone and they may be trying it on a laptop and stuff like that. But however, yeah. So that was blame number one, right? And then the other thing that really ticked me off with Ticketmaster, right, was because they went, oh, we don't set the prices. Which is true. They don't. But they do sell an option of dynamic pricing to the promoter. So they're the ones that enable it.
It's essential. It's a selection. It's a decision.
It's a selection. But my point is that Ticketmaster have gone, hey, guess what? We've come up with this great idea for big gigs and stuff like that. If you've got a ticket for £100, we can put this thing in called dynamic pricing, which will double the price of the tickets and you make even more money for the same thing. Do you want to do that or not? And of course, promoters, being business people, kind of go, yeah, okay. You know, and I would say kind of maybe most of the time that kind of works out okay, because if you're doing dynamic prices and you see you've got a ticket that's worth £100 and it goes up to 120 or something like that, it's kind of, whatever. But to see tickets that were originally advertised as, 86, whatever it was, and then you get to the top of the queue after hours and hours and hours and the only thing available is £400 for a standing ticket. Not for a ticket in a stand, for a standing ticket on the pitch. Oh, man, I'll tell you, it was just kind of getting my goat up. And I'm not the only one. The UK Culture Secretary, I thought it was funny how the politicians are lobbing in on this. She said it was depressing because she was actually caught in that entire thing. She was on for hours as well. And when she got through for a ticket, she ended up paying twice what she was expecting. The Taoiseach Simon Harris says that he was disgusted with it as well. And quote, the monopoly needs to be looked at. My favourite quote was from Mary Lou McDonald.
Right.
€500 a ticket. Come on.
Well,
she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. But it's caused such a stir now that investigations are being launched in Ireland by the consumer people. The UK are going to look into it as well. And it's just been announced that the European Commission are also going to look into, I think, dynamic pricing in general, which I think is fantastic. Then in the United States, we've had, there was that whole thing in the States with Taylor Swift, and they made a complete arse of selling her tickets. But the whole dynamic pricing thing has not gone down well in the States as well. And I believe there's over 30 states now who are taking Ticketmaster owner Live Nation to court over this very issue. And hopefully they get rid of it.
Here's the thing, right? If you wanted to buy a ticket to Taylor Swift, there was only one place to go, Ticketmaster. That was it. That's effectively a monopoly, right?
Yes.
If you look at the other operators in Ireland, there's, I think, Billetto, there's tickets.ie. They're barely even competitors. They don't have the acts, they don't have the scale. So yeah, Ticketmaster or Live Nation effectively has a monopoly. If you're going to see a big band, there's only one place that you can get it. And it's the same thing that has happened with the Apple App Store when you think about it. I mean, Ticketmaster is effectively a walled garden for certain acts, and the EU was very good at breaking up the App Store and said, look, you can have third-party app stores. You don't have to go through iTunes if you don't want to. And you apply that same logic to Ticketmaster, I think we could have a very interesting market on the basis of that. So yeah, I think looking at those comparisons, there's definitely a precedent set there.
Precedent left, right and centre, because Ticketmaster's, everybody says that Ticketmaster is a monopoly, and Ticketmaster's defence and Live Nation's defence is, no, we're not. There are many other ticket retailers and people are free to go to whatever venue they want and to sell their tickets through whoever they want. We have our own network of venues and we have our own ticketing system, and all this kind of stuff. And it's up to the artists if they want to choose to use that. We don't own every venue in the world. We don't sell every ticket in the world. That's their defense. All right. But the problem is two things. Number one is that Live Nation, Ticketmaster are not only just a ticketing agency, but they're also a venue owner and operator. And Ticketmaster will do exclusive deals with somebody. So like if you want to go and see an act at the 3 Arena, you have to buy through Ticketmaster because there is a deal with 3 Arena that they can only sell tickets for their events through Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
Monopoly. Monopoly. Big time. All right. Then the other thing is, and this was the problem with the Taylor Swift gig, was she was saying that she wanted to do her tour, but in order to get the best venues and the biggest venues and the venues that the fans would like to go and see and that make most sense, they were all controlled by Ticketmaster. Out of 50 dates, I think, they could only get 3 or 4 that were not Ticketmaster.
There you go.
Monopoly. Anyway, listen, we're talking about Ticketmaster and music and all that kind of stuff and dynamic pricing and stuff like that. It's a tech podcast, right?
Yeah. So you've actually got a good tech story to do with this.
Well, there's a brilliant story behind this. And if you're interested in technology, if you're interested in music, if you're interested in money and corporate greed, I can't recommend a book called Ticketmasters, The Rise of the Concert Industry and How the Public Got Scalped. All right. It's written a number of years ago, but it's so applicable today. It's an amazing read. It goes way back to, where do you think the Ticketmaster story started?
Oh my goodness! There's usually somebody with a benevolent idea. I'm going to say the 70s. Why the hell?
Probably
not?
the 50s, late 50s, certainly in the 60s. Yep. In the 60s, there was a company, there was TRS, which was a ticketing reservation system. And what they were using was a very early kind of a computer network. And they would have, sure, we remember the days when you would go into a store and then you would buy your ticket and they would use some kind of a terminal that would connect to the central computer. All right. So they started using that this is where I say for shows and stuff like that. And I think the airlines started cottoning onto that fairly quick. So when you go into a travel agent, the travel agent would use a computer terminal. So that's going way back to the 60s, right? The first company to start that or to really kind of become big was Ticketron in the States. And then a number of years later, Ticketmaster got into the same thing. Ticketmaster essentially started off not as actually selling the tickets, but they were selling the software to enable people to sell tickets. And then kind of got in the scheme themselves, like, you know. But Ticketmaster just had a bit of an edge. And the reason why they wanted to computerize the whole system was there was all kinds of, look, there's always scams going on. It doesn't matter what the technology is or how basic or how complicated, there's always a scam, right? And the scam was that artists would show up in a particular town to do a gig, all right? People would have bought the tickets. And what the owner of the venue would be doing, or the promoter, is they would be taking the tickets from people coming in, giving it to a kid who'd run around the back, all right, out front and go, anyone buying or selling tickets? And they would sell that same ticket again.
Wow.
So that when you were doing the accounts at the end of the night, you count up the tickets, but a number of them would have been sold 2, maybe 3 times. So that was kind of to get around that side of things. So Ticketron was the first really big player. Ticketmaster came along then kind of in the 70s, and they just were more bullish and more ambitious. They moved to California so that they would be near the live entertainment industry and stuff like that, right? So that's Ticketmaster. At the same time then, you had a company called Clear Channel. And they're called Clear Channel because they operated radio stations. And in the States in the 70s and the 60s, most radio was medium wave or AM, all right? And a Clear Channel station was known as that because nobody else broadcast in or around its frequency, so that at nighttime it literally had a clear channel and could broadcast for hundreds of miles. I don't know if you ever saw the movie American Graffiti with Wolfman Jack and stuff like that, but that's a great example of the radio station. But Clear Channel got bigger. There's a whole load of reasons why, but anyway, during the 90s, Clear Channel was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They were buying more and more radio stations. They were branching out into billboards and stuff like that. They were watching what was happening in the whole ticketing and the live music side of things because music radio was so close to it. And they kind of went, hey, we've got this amazing marketing channel with radio and billboards that we can just talk about events all day, every day and sell tickets. What if we set up our own events company? And that's exactly what they did. They bought an events company called SFX, I think it was, and then they grew that. So they were able to do all of the promotion, and then they were also able to run the events, and they started buying venues and all kinds of things. And then one day they went, we need ticketing. All right. Okay. Sorry, I should say this whole channel, what they did with the events and venues, that was the birth of Live Nation. That's where that started. Okay. And then they said, we need ticketing. So Live Nation and Ticketmaster, because of their combined interests, decided to merge. And then finally, you had this whole thing where they started doing deals with bands like U2 or Madonna, where they would essentially say to somebody like U2, listen, guys, we're going to organize your world tour and we're going to give you 200 million for it. Okay. You don't have to worry about anything. We're going to do the venues. We're going to do the ticketing. We're going to do all the marketing. We're going to do blah, 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 the whole thing. They had the whole thing sewn up. Is that word monopoly back in there again? This is how hard it is. And this is how far going back it is. Everything that's going on with Oasis went on with Pearl Jam. I don't know if you remember them from the mid-90s. And Pearl Jam just didn't like the setup. And they literally tried to run a tour one summer, not using Ticketmaster venues or Live Nation venues, and they couldn't. And it was a monopoly. And they brought a case and it went really, really high in the States and they just couldn't prove it. They ended up working with Ticketmaster because they had no choice even after that. So no, a huge amount. That's literally, I've skimmed through it so fast, but that is literally just the bones of it. As I say, Ticketmaster's Rise of the Concert Industry is an amazing book, and particularly at the story, the whole technological side of things, you should definitely take a read of it. I'll stick a link for it in the show notes below. And listen, if you are going to try for tickets for Oasis this weekend, best of luck. I hope you get them. So the other really big story of the week is Elon Musk taking on the entire country of Brazil. Not an inconsequential small little country, is it?
Small little country. How many 100 million people there?
Most of them live in Ireland.
And doing very well for us.
Absolutely. I love Brazilians. Go on.
Right. So here is the long and convoluted story of X in Brazil. Now, let's frame this. Elon Musk is a, champion of free speech, which is code for couldn't be bothered investing in moderation. Brazil has a fairly, I'll call it stiff approach to social media. It is not unusual for people to be arrested for social media posts. In particular, there is a judge, Alexander de Moraes, who has a reputation for being very tough on social media companies, that is, as opposed to, Elon Musk, who is very tough on social media, where he says all sorts of big boy things. So what has happened is that Judge de Moraes said, okay, look, you're spreading misinformation. You can't do that. Right, I'm going to ban X in Brazil. To which Elon Musk said, well, guess what? I'm closing my office in Brazil. I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. To which the judge said, okay, right, I may have the order of things slightly screwed up, but okay. Starlink customers still have access to X. So how about this? I'm not happy about this. Starlink is effectively part of the same economic unit as X. So I'm going to freeze Starlink's assets. And when they agree that they will block X, well, then I will unfreeze their assets. To which Starlink said, that's a load of nonsense. In order to defend itself, all X had to do was appoint a council, go forward and answer the charges. That was it. That's all Musk had to do. Send somebody to answer the charges. He did not. Therefore, the appeal or the ban stands. So as of right now, when we're recording, you cannot access X in Brazil, but you can use Starlink, which I gather has had its assets unfrozen because it blocked access to X. So this is kind of where we're standing at the moment. Elon Musk is fulminating on his social media platform.
Hmm.
A lot of Brazilian people are going, "Oh, this blue sky thing looks pretty nice. Let's go over there." Um, and we've got a judge that is looking very, very strong on social media, which I'm sure is actually going down very well with a lot of people. It certainly is going down very well over here. Um, so there
Why
you
do you say
have it.
that? Why
Well,
is it going down well over
people
here?
people are frustrated with the levels of misinformation and the levels of, I'll be generous and call it a coarse
Hmm.
discourse that we
Hmm.
have on social media. So the idea of people being held accountable for what they say and not being able to hide behind cool dude number 64531, you know, forcing that level, some level of accountability, I think is definitely positive. When you look at an awful lot of the trolls that have been stirring up a lot of hatred and division in Ireland, a lot of them are accounts based overseas, have no interest in Ireland as a country.
Hmm.
So to have people actually identifiable and um, accountable, I mean, in a way, it's kind of sad that it has come to this, that you can't trust people to behave themselves and be respectful to other people on social media. But here we are. And
Well,
here's
that's
Brazil being an
yeah.
example.
There's the human condition. What I think is really interesting about this, and the conversation came up during the week on another podcast about social media platforms and big tech are bigger than many countries. I mean,
Yeah.
you are talking like about a country-sized organization. And they have to have some accountability. They can't run off and just do whatever it is they do because they are operating across every border in the world. And I like the fact that, you know, kind of somebody is trying to rein in Elon Musk. And the only reason I know exactly why Elon Musk is behaving the way he is because somebody told him he can't do something. So he's just going, well, the world's literally, he's going, I am the world's richest man. I will do what the bloody hell I want. So what if I'm not in Brazil? Like I care. You know what I mean? That's one country. There's 167 other countries that I can go with. You know, that's exactly the way he's thinking, like, you know. And I know, you know, Brazil has its own agenda and the judge has his own agenda. And there's a lesson in life here. You never mess with a judge. You never, ever mess with a judge or the judiciary. They are completely independent. Even if you're a politician or the president of the United States, you never mess with a judge. And Elon Musk is learning that, and this judge is causing him all kinds of problems. It is interesting. We'll see how it happens there. If there won't be a come down, but there'll be some kind of a thing will happen, and it'll be
something will happen.
Something
There's
will
something
happen.
always happening.
And do you know what? It's like everything else in life. Do you know what I mean? We'll have forgotten about it next week. Or the week after, certainly this time next year, it'd be like, oh yeah, what was that thing in Brazil? I've forgotten. Yeah, what was that thing with the Oasis tickets? I've forgotten. That was, you know, so that's just the way things are. What else is going on in the world? Oh, speaking of Elon Musk, money, stock market, Nvidia, the golden child of world finance. Put your money into Nvidia, you will make millions and millions and millions just on one stock alone. It's all gone wrong.
The greatest beneficiary of the AI boom has definitely been NVIDIA because everybody needs processing power and NVIDIA is the guy you go to. Or are they? Because there's loads of people making chips. I mean, they are in, I'm not going to call it a crowded marketplace, but if you look at who's competing with NVIDIA in the AI space, you've got AMD, IBM, Intel. These are not small brands. What, however, has happened is that regulators or competition regulators in the US have pricked up their ears. And they've done this for one pretty interesting reason. And it actually speaks to what we've been talking about earlier with that walled garden response. It's not so much that NVIDIA has market dominance. I mean, that's fine. NVIDIA didn't do anything wrong. It just so happened that there was a technological shift and their product, which wasn't developed with that initial use in mind, happened to be the best solution or a brilliant solution for it. You know, and it took them from being a profitable to an extremely profitable company. I mean, they're still worth I think it's nearly $3 trillion.
Yeah.
You know, However, this news has impacted the share price by 2.44%. You think 2.4%? You know, come on. What is that? In NVIDIA terms, that's $279 billion. That is a record fall in value for one day, one company in America. And the reason NVIDIA are in trouble isn't because they make something. It's not the way they make it. It's what happens if somebody thinks, NVIDIA, maybe not the solution for me anymore. Okay, I want to switch over to IBM. I want to switch over to AMD. All of a sudden, you find that it's not as easy as you might think. Are there any penalties in place? Will AMD's stuff play nicely with other people's technology? And this is what the competition regulator are interested in. Not so much that NVIDIA makes something that people really need. It's what happens if people want to mix and match or move over to a competitor. This is the issue.
So our entire show today is about monopolies.
It's about monopolies. It's about things going wrong.
And the irony is that our entire show has been taken over by one topic: monopolies.
There you go.
Just saying. Speaking of new tech, some nice new bits and pieces out this week. Remarkable. Now, I'm a big fan of the e-paper slates, and I'll tell you one reason, right? I like the fact that you can have like an Amazon Kindle or whatever, and then you get a pen with it and you can make notes, or you can just take it as a blank sheet and you can write things and whatever. Saves paper, it saves space, everything's organized on the one thing. It's a lovely way of doing it, right? So I like the idea. I got one maybe 2 years ago or something for my wife, who is not a technical person. All right. Absolutely the opposite of you and I. All right. Loves it. Uses it all the time. She's doing things with it. Can you do that? So she's figured it out. And I think it's amazing. All right. So I just think these e-paper slates are fantastic, right? Remarkable was kind of the first one out of the gate. And then Amazon came along. Of course, they did very well. But Remarkable this week have done something which no other e-paper slate has done. And that is they have announced a color screen.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of thinking, I remember when I got the Scribe, kind of looking at it going, it's black and white and it looks a little dull. Do you know what I mean? But then you weigh that up and you kind of go, well, if you're writing, well, I have my black pen. Has anyone seen my blue pen? Do you know what I mean? It's black, blue, or red. We write with one color or whatever. It's all kind of, all right, well, I get the gist of that. But when you're looking at things, do you know what I mean? Like if you're looking at a newspaper or a magazine, or you're looking at the covers of books or something like that, they just look nicer in color. And I kind of thought, that'd be nice. Anyway, so that's what Remarkable have done now today. They have announced a color screen. So not maybe necessarily for writing with, but certainly if you're browsing through books or documents, or there's any kind of a photograph or something.
Do you know what you were describing?
Nice. What am I describing?
A Kindle.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's a Kindle, but you can write on it. Have they got colour Kindles now, do they?
Yeah.
I never looked. Oh, okay. Okay, well then this is a colour Kindle, but you can write on it, yes.
It's the tablets. Well, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
In comparison, I would actually stick up for the old version here, because I've got first generation Kindle, and it is the best thing because I only need it to do one thing and it does that just fine. That's all I need. That's all I care about. Do I need anything else? No. Do you need a color screen on a device you have bought to take notes with?
No.
I'm going to say no.
I think, though, that if you are thinking about that Kindle Scribe, Remarkable kind of a thing, I think, yes, you would just write in one color and you just make your notes and whatever. That's one thing, okay? But just the ability to be able to see like your library of books on the device in color just makes it more pleasant. Now, the question is how much more pleasant, because the Amazon Scribe is going for about $350. I think the Remarkable, from what I remember, was around £400 about the time I was buying. This new one with the colour screen, €600. Is it worth an extra €200 to put a little colour into your life? Whatever. But do you know what? Listen, that's today. Zip forward kind of 10 years and you'll have this super slim device and you will be able to read newspapers, magazines. I sound like somebody who's talking like in 1980, don't I? I sound like my hero.
Look,
and I forgot my hero's name, but anyways, 2001,
Arthur
Arthur
C.
C. Clarke.
Something
Arthur
you're
C. Clarke.
into. If you want a color,
well, actually, do you know what? I'll tell you why, right? Because magazines are good, and I tried out a magazine app so that I can keep up with some of the tech mags and stuff like that. Because I like the formatting of mags, the way they're set out, and the full color photos and all that kind of stuff. Just didn't work reading a magazine on a tablet. All right. Well, actually, it wasn't too bad on the tablet. It didn't work on the phone. But the tablet's too big and it's too heavy. Whereas by comparison, the Remarkable is way lighter. And to have something that light and that thin and that big, and it's comfortable to read an A4 sheet format and stuff like that, and it's in color, I actually think it'll do quite well.
Yeah, I don't know. Or you can just buy a Fire tablet if you're really interested in color.
Right, I hate you. Also, now when it comes to Apple and when it comes to Samsung, I'm usually not so fond of Apple and always praising Samsung. So today, for change, I've got some Samsung news. Not impressed. Not impressed at all. They've released their Galaxy Book 5. At least they haven't released it, but they've announced the Galaxy Book 5. Now, I have a Galaxy Book. It's gone back. It's the 2 or the 3. It's great. All right. Super thin, super light, runs Windows. Okay. So that's the advantage for me. And I use it on the road and it's great. And I can turn it inside out, 360, and I can write on it with a pen and do all that, blah, 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 blah. So I think it's great. So I'm a fan of the Galaxy Book, right? The new 5, the big selling feature of the new Galaxy Book from Samsung is that it has Microsoft Copilot enabled in it. Yay!
Microsoft Copilot in a Samsung product. Is this why you're annoyed?
No, actually, the first thing I kind of thought of was everybody's gone AI crazy, and we've got all of these Copilot Plus enabled PCs. Everybody seems to be like, your new PC is going to have a neural processor in it, and it will be able to run AI. I was like,
and you got a button for it.
Yeah, but what do I need an AI on my laptop for? What problem is it fixing? I never had a problem where it's kind of going, if only I could talk to my laptop and say blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? I'm just kind of wondering about that. It's not a problem and it's not a feature that immediately jumps out to me. But here's the real reason that I'm really disappointed with this whole Galaxy Book 5 thing, right? It does circle to search. All right. So you know that on the mobile phones where you just put a circle around and it'll go and search Google for it. It has chat assist where you're able to talk to your computer and come back with the answers and stuff like that. It has live translate so that you're able to talk to somebody in Italian and they reply in Italian and it gets translated into English, whatever. All right. The problem is, in order to use this with your laptop, you must connect to your phone. What's the point? Why would I buy a laptop so as I can connect to my phone to do the same things my phone does? It's just I think a major loss or a major for Samsung. And in addition, because I'm a big believer in if there's a price on it, I'll buy it. And if there's no price on it, I'm just not going to touch it. No price announced.
Okay.
So
right.
We'll
not touching it, so.
Not touching it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Grant, listen, let's wrap it up for this week. One more story. And I know he would hate to be the and finally, but here it is. And finally, Donald Trump.
Yeah, spare thought for the Trump family. Right. As you might remember, in July, Trump went to a conference in Nashville. It was just called Bitcoin. It was the biggest Bitcoin conference, I think, in the States. Absolutely. Right. Why would Trump go? Let's look at it from an electoral perspective. He's doing pretty well with young men. And he's like, where would I find a bunch of young men with money that I can make from them that are ideologically pliant? I know. A crypto conference. I'm being mean, but maybe not by that much. So yeah, he went to crypto. He went to Bitcoin, and he said, "You know what? We should have a giant Bitcoin reserve. We should be the Bitcoin capital of the planet in America. We should be absolutely huge. I love Bitcoin. I'm going to be doing something in Bitcoin. And it was like, wow, Trump Bitcoin, this is going to be fantastic. And then they did nothing, as is their way, because they can't make money off it very quickly. So it looked like they weren't going to do anything. Right? Then, September 3rd, the X accounts belonging to Lara Trump, who is Eric Trump's wife, Tiffany Trump, who was one of the daughters, and they were allegedly hacked. Of course, their accounts were hacked, looking to promote a crypto token related to a company called World Liberty Financial. Right. So the token was WLFI. Now, the official version of, don't sort of look at this thing over here. Accounts were hacked. Nothing to do with us. Well, guess what? The crowd behind Liberty Financial, developers of this coin token, were actually related to a company called Doe Finance, which was hacked earlier this year. They were developing a blockchain app, and they got hacked and they lost a couple of $1 million. But the guys behind it produced a white paper, which the Trumps have actually been shopping around and sort of looking at, what might we do with sort of cryptocurrency? What might that look like? So makes you wonder, okay, we have an inadvertent promotion perhaps of WLFI. Does this mean the Trumps actually do have have something in the works for crypto? But as always with Trump, has he hired the best people to go and work with on this?
No.
He hires the best people.
No, I don't think he does. I think
there you go.
He hires some really, really dodgy people, and then he doesn't get on with them, and then they all fall out, and he doesn't pay his bills, and he's a nightmare. But that said, I think that if Trump does get in November, I think it's going to be good for crypto, just in general. So I think it's kind of fluttering around at the moment. My guess, okay, and you can make a note in your diary and you can ask me about this on the 10th of November, okay? Maybe I'll do that myself. I think that if Trump gets in, it's going to be seen as positive by the crypto industry and the value of Bitcoin will jump up. I think between here and there, it's going to just kind of flounder around 50K, which it is.
Okay. So you're hoping for a Trump presidency then, so you can make good on your crypto investment.
No. I just reckon that's what's going to happen. Anyways, listen, Niall, let's wrap it up there for this week for our news. Thank you very much.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006. This is Tech Radio.
The key to any successful career is persistence and resilience. Knowing that no matter what setbacks you face, there is a reward for getting it right in the end, but only if you stick it out to the end. Siobhan Curtin, site leader for eBay Ireland, knows this as well as anyone. She had a chat with Niall Kitson to talk about her journey from customer service to upper management.
Siobhan, I think it's fair to say that different styles of organizations attract different personality types, people from, fairly eclectic backgrounds, because it's seen as being a real asset to an organization. So what attracted you to a career in corporate space?
Yeah, so I have been with the company for nearly 20 years. I first of all started out from college after I did a PLC course straight out of school in Ballyfermot College of Further Education. And then I did a year in National College of Ireland. I then went working in a bank in Dublin. And after that, I seen an advertisement for a new company setting up in Ireland, which was eBay. And it really attracted me because I had always been interested in technology, future kind of, I could see that the internet and e-commerce were going to be a big thing. And I started off there in 2004 and did really well there and started off dealing with customers, which gave me a great base for how the business was run. It was really early days, so technology has moved on so much and there's been a number of changes since then. And change is fast and it's a really fast-paced environment, which kept my interest. naturally, I'm quite a curious person. I like to know how things work and how things run. And I think I found in e-commerce was really a place where we're bringing together people. People are buying and selling on the platform, and that's driving them to have successful lives in their own lives. And all of that has been really good. And as I develop my career, it's really a people business. So we're dealing with people all the time. We have big, large teams within the corporate environment. And that's what's attracted me. It's really looking after those customers and looking after big teams of people as I developed into leadership roles.
It's really interesting, sort of the customer facing element, as well as sort of managing internal teams, because I think when one works in retail, you get to see the best and worst of people because somebody is having a really good time with the platform, or somebody has had a problem, or a transaction has failed, or something like that. To what extent did you find your expertise in sort of with the general public, if you will, carried into team management? Did you have to sort of apply the same level of empathy, or was it a completely different mindset?
No, I think it's a very parallel mindset. I think when you're dealing with the public in general, you have to be very empathetic and you have to meet people where they're at. Oftentimes, if people are upset or there's something happening, that could come out when they have a query or a problem, and it's understanding and questioning and trying to problem solve. And a lot of that dealing with customers and dealing very well with customers and helping them solve their problems, you can bring into leadership, because leadership is about motivating your teams, understanding where people are at, trying to get to an empathetic type of leadership style would absolutely be how we work in eBay and how I work, and really understanding people and get the best out of people. So somebody might have, an issue going on in their personal life or something else happening, and that might, show up in the workplace. And I really feel if you've got it, building trust with your teams is so important. And that is the same with customers. So really meeting people where they're at, you can get the best from people.
I think when you're dealing with multinational teams, which is something that you do, or teams which sort of, members from different countries, there is the potential there to have a culture clash that you really don't think about when you're joining a team, but then you realize the extent to which people's cultures or the experiences they bring differ. Have you found that to be the case, or do people sort of rally around a common purpose and kind of leave stuff at the door?
I think mostly at a basic level, people's needs and human needs are very similar, no matter where they're living in the world. However, there are differences, and actually in eBay and in Ireland, in our company in Ireland, we have a very multinational workforce, and we really tried to celebrate those differences. We look at how can people bring their background, their life experience into dealing with either our customers or dealing with the teams. For me, I lead teams all across the world, in Europe, different parts of Europe, and different parts of North America. And I absolutely have to listen and understand. As leadership, a lot of it is about listening. It's not always about, managing people. It's really about leading. And to be a really good leader, you have to listen. And that's really enriched me. I have been all over the world, traveling everywhere. I've met people from most continents around the world. And always I've gone with an approach of let's listen, let's understand where people are at. There are differences, but actually those differences and those different perspectives drive a lot of value in our business. And we've been, award winning in terms of Diverse Company of the Year, cultural awards, all of those things. So we really value those differences. And that's what attracts me to that global corporate culture. And I think we're quite lucky in Ireland because we have a number of multinational corporations in Ireland, and that we're running from Ireland a lot of big global companies. So that international experience is so valuable.
You mentioned there a little bit about your background, particularly what's stood out to me there was that you didn't come from one of the main universities. You didn't come from a computer science background, that you went straight into kind of a customer facing role and then into leadership. Did you find that you suffered from a little bit of imposter syndrome when you moved from customer facing role to working with teams that would have a much more technical focus?
Yeah, and I think that's true of everyone as you lead and you get to big positions of responsibility like I have today. I absolutely, it sometimes felt, I didn't have the traditional university degree. And I did go back at nighttime while working in my role, my customer facing role, and finished and completed a degree because I felt like I just needed to have that. But actually, as I've matured and got, more senior and matured as well in age, I actually felt the experiences that I had in those early days of, I did a business diploma in Ballyfermot. And as part of that, we had to set up our own business. And I loved that. And actually, the transferable skills that we talk about, that resilience of completing something, that resilience of looking not just at the traditional roles, which are all great, and people that have come from those colleges do great as well. But I think what it's opened my eyes to is that actually you're gathering skills all the time. And I think it's that kind of mindset of what am I learning? How am I learning? And progressing forward. And that's really stood to me over the years.
I think what you're alluding to there is something that we all suffer from time to time, which is imposter syndrome. How have you dealt with that yourself, particularly in an environment where, as I said, you're surrounded by people from different backgrounds, but also from people, at cultural level, but also at the skills level. So, have you ever felt, jeepers, what am I doing surrounded by these people? And how did you get over it?
Yeah, there's been times where I've taken on, bigger responsibility and worked with different people, definitely with different backgrounds. And there's been times where I thought, in my own mind, God, am I ready for this? Am I, how am I going to impact here? And sometimes you have to just go for it, even if you don't have all the answers. And what I've learned over time is, as I've taken on new roles and new responsibilities, is asking that question is, how can I add value to this situation? How do I bring all of the skills that I've collected over the years and bring value to that situation? And you actually, you have to, on the outside, be confident. Be confident in your skills. You have been put in this position because other people are invested in you. They know you can do it. And relying on peers, and sometimes, having a mentor, somebody that you can sound things off and use as a soundboard is really helpful. If you're thinking, God, I really don't know if I'm able for this, you just have to give it a go. And I would say to anyone in that's having those thoughts and having a bit of imposter syndrome, is just try it. If you don't try it, you won't know. And there's been times where I haven't got things right and things haven't always gone the way, but it's about going, okay, what went wrong? What can we fix? And dealing with big, large teams, you have people with the skills, you can lean on others as well to help you on that journey. So for me, it's about having that positive growth mindset, trying it. Don't set yourself up to fail before you even try it. And then really having a good network of people around you.
What you've sort of kind of raised there is an issue that I think a lot of people have to deal with when they join any kind of organization or any kind of business, indeed, is the idea of somebody in a senior position sending the ladder back down, whether it being, a mentorship program or whether it just means being available and giving advice on an ad hoc basis. How have you found your experience of this? Have you had to send the ladder down yourself?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about promoting from within and gaining people to get to the next level. I do a lot of development with our teams. We also look at people's potential. Not everyone will have 100% of the skill, but they will have potential. They will have the right mindset. And how do you make an environment where they can thrive? I'm very passionate about, if there's new initiatives or there's new programs of work, getting different people and different voices at the table. Even if they don't have 100% all of the skills, it's how do we develop, give feedback, put people in positions where they are visible. A lot of time women leaders are not visible. They're doing a lot of work in the background and it's not visible. And I take that really seriously as a leader, as a woman leader as well, is how can I make the work that other women are doing visible? So then they can be in that opportunity to get to the next level or get to the next promotion. Really looking at, and I'm mentoring, I've mentored a lot of people in my own teams and even outside to get that real visibility. For me, it's about how do they share what the work they're doing, the value they're bringing to the company. And a lot of times, women are suffering from imposter syndrome and women are doing the work and doing it better. And it's just not visible. So I take that really seriously.
Yeah, and indeed, it's something that I've seen across the industry as well, where women are doing exceptionally well in support roles and kind of, for want of a better word, below the line roles where they aren't particularly visible, but there's no reason why they can't be front and center. Is this, you've kind of alluded to it being sort of a problem that you see, but how big a problem is it? Do people from different backgrounds come in with that same problem, or do you tend to find that, well, maybe in America they're a bit more confident, maybe from the UK they're a little bit more humble, and these sort of qualities ultimately end up holding people back?
I think I'm lucky in the company I work with. We have a very good balance between genders. We have a lot of senior women leaders, and I think that's really important because then other people coming up through can see that. And I do think it's global. I don't think there is one region is different than the other. I think, women are balancing a lot in their personal lives and also in their work life. And I'm lucky there's been a number of programs in the company I work with about elevating women and programs specifically designed for women in leadership. And that's really important that investment is made. Like there's tons of statistics and all of this, that, the more women you have on boards, the better the company does. And it really matters to the bottom line. So it's continuous. It's about how do we give people the tools to be able to develop themselves and making sure that they're getting into those positions and be intentional about that.
And looking at that bottom line, I mean, ultimately, this is what companies look for. What is the return on investment on supporting women in the workplace or supporting a diverse workplace? In your experience, how have you found upper management considering diversity or mentoring as being essential to the financial growth of the organization?
I think it's really important. As I said before, we're working in a people business. Our customers are completely diverse. It would not make sense as a company if we didn't have a diversity in the leadership, if we didn't have diversity in our folks that are speaking to our customers every day. So we make deliberate efforts to make sure that we are, looking at how diverse is our teams, what is our recruitment processes, how do we balance promotions, how are we making sure that the data stacks up against all of these initiatives that we have around that. And I see that more and more in companies. In my own company, we have a global head of diversity and inclusion, and his main job is about that and driving that diversity. In my past 20 years of corporate life, I see that more coming to the fore. And it's not just a nice to have, it's a must have.
And that was Siobhan Curtin, site leader for eBay Ireland, chatting with Niall Kitson.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out some of the other stories that we have online. We couldn't get into the podcast, including
Tech Enable gets into aviation. We find out why Yelp and Google are going to war yet again. And we may forget about the iPhone 16. Hype Machine is cranking up all about the iPhone 17.
And of course, the 16 being released next week. We'll have full details and a review, if you like, on next week's Tech Radio podcast. All of those stories, though, right now on for you online at techcentral.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show online and on RT Radio 1 Extra. And do remember to share our podcast with a friend. Just tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify, or now on YouTube as well. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.